The massive screens in Earth's Defense Command Center flickered with unusual patterns. The quantum detection array, humanity's most advanced early warning system, had picked up something that had never been seen before. Energy signatures, massive ones, were appearing at the edge of the solar system. Admiral James Walker stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of the monitors. At 60 years old, he had spent most of his life preparing for this moment, though few knew it. The room around him buzzed with controlled activity as operators and analysts worked at their stations. "Sir, the signatures are unlike anything in our database," reported Lieutenant Mark Wilson, his fingers flying across the holographic controls. "They're arranged in a formation. This isn't natural." Walker nodded slowly. They had known this day would come. Ever since they had found the ruins on Mars 30 years ago, humanity had been preparing in secret. The public knew nothing about the quantum detection array or the true extent of Earth's military capabilities. "Multiple objects dropping out of faster-than-light travel," announced Captain Lisa Brown from her station. Her voice was steady, but her hands gripped her chair tightly. "They're big, sir. Capital ship size." The main screen showed the objects materializing just beyond Neptune's orbit. 30 ships, each larger than anything humanity had ever built, or so the visitors thought. Walker allowed himself a small smile. "Incoming transmission," called out Communications Officer Robert Green. "It's being broadcast on all frequencies, sir. They want everyone to hear this." Walker straightened his uniform. "Put it through." The message that came through was first in an alien language, but Earth's AI translators, reverse-engineered from the Mars ruins, quickly converted it to English. The voice was deep and mechanical. "Attention, primitive world designated Sol 3. This is Fleet Commander Primus of the Galactic Empire. Your world has been monitored and deemed ready for integration into the Empire. Submit to Imperial authority and prepare for occupation. Resistance is not advised. You have one planetary rotation to respond." The room fell silent. This was the moment that would define humanity's future. Everyone turned to look at Admiral Walker, who had already started walking toward the communication station. "Open a channel," he ordered. "Wide broadcast, just like they did." Green's fingers moved across his console. "Channel open, sir." Walker cleared his throat and spoke clearly. "This is Admiral James Walker of the United Earth Defense Force. We have received your message." He paused for effect, then continued. "Our response is simple. No entry." The silence in the command center was absolute. Then the Imperial reply came almost immediately. "You mistake this for a request. Submit or face annihilation. Your primitive weapons cannot hope to." Walker cut the transmission with a wave of his hand. "Send them our prepared video package." On screens across the Imperial fleet, the primitive humans displayed something impossible: footage of their true military capacity. Ships emerging from hidden bases on Mars and Europa. Weapon systems that the Empire had never seen before. A unified Earth, prepared and ready. "Sir," Captain Brown reported, "they're moving their ships into attack formation." Walker pressed a button on his command console, sending a prearranged signal across the solar system. Throughout the asteroid belt and the outer planets, hidden sensors and weapon platforms came online. Quantum-linked defense systems activated, creating an invisible web of protection around Earth. "Let them come," Walker said calmly. "Activate Defense Plan Omega. All personnel to battle stations." He turned to his command staff. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've spent 30 years preparing for this moment. The Empire expects to find a primitive world ready to kneel. Instead, they'll learn why humanity has always fought hardest when backed into a corner." As alert sirens began to sound across Earth's hidden military installations, Walker looked at the tactical display showing the approaching Imperial fleet. They had no idea they were flying into a trap 3 decades in the making. Earth had transformed the entire solar system into one giant fortress, and the Empire was about to learn that no entry wasn't just a response, It was a promise. The first battle for Earth's independence was about to begin, and humanity was ready. Commander Anna Miller walked through the massive underground hangar on Mars, her footsteps echoing in the vast space. Above her loomed the pride of Earth's hidden fleet, the battleship Thunder of Terra. For 30 years, humanity had kept these ships secret, building them in underground facilities across Mars and the asteroid belt. Status report. She called out to her chief engineer, Bill Porter, who was checking the final systems on the massive ship. "All systems are green, Commander," Porter replied, his tablet displaying streams of data. "The quantum shields are at full power, and the gravity weapons are primed. We've made improvements the Empire won't expect." The ship before them was nothing like the sleek, bright vessels of the Empire. Earth's ships were dark, angular, and built for war. They incorporated the best of human innovation with reverse-engineered alien technology from the Mars ruins. But humans hadn't just copied the alien tech, they'd improved it. "Admiral Walker has given the signal," Anna announced to her crew as they gathered around. "It's time to show the Empire what humanity has been doing all these years." Throughout the solar system, similar scenes played out as Earth's hidden fleet prepared for battle. In the Jupiter shipyards, stealth vessels powered up their engines. On Europa, submarine carriers emerged from under the ice. Even the asteroid belt revealed its secrets as mining operations transformed into weapon platforms. Back on Earth, the public was just learning the truth. News broadcasts showed the first images of humanity's real military might. People gathered in streets and squares, watching massive holographic displays as their leaders explained the 30 years of secret preparation. The Mars ruins changed everything, the news anchors explained. "When we found them in 2087, we discovered we weren't alone. But more importantly, we learned about the Empire. And we chose a different path." In the Lunar Command Center, General Mike Thompson reviewed the tactical displays. Earth's defense network was unlike anything the Empire had seen before. While they relied on brute force and numbers, humanity had developed subtle but devastating weapons. "Show me the gravity lance," he ordered. A hologram appeared, displaying Earth's most powerful weapon. It looked simple, just a long, dark cylinder. But inside was technology that could bend space itself, creating artificial gravity wells that could tear ships apart. "The Empire thinks size means power," Thompson said to his staff. "They're about to learn otherwise." On the edge of the solar system, the Imperial fleet was advancing. They had no idea they were being watched through quantum sensors that humanity had placed throughout the system. Every move they made was tracked, every communication intercepted. In her ship's command chair, Commander Miller received the latest updates. The Thunder of Terra's crew worked at their stations, each trained for years in secret for this moment. They knew the burden they carried, humanity's first line of defense against an empire that had conquered thousands of worlds. "All hands, battle stations," she ordered. The ship's lights dimmed to combat levels. "The Empire thinks they're coming to conquer a primitive world. Let's show them how wrong they are." Across the solar system, humanity's hidden strength was revealing itself. Stealth satellites emerged from their hiding places. Defense platforms activated their weapons. A web of quantum-linked defenses came online, creating a battlefield that humanity had spent 3 decades preparing. "Remember your training," Anna told her crew as they prepared to launch. "We're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting to show the galaxy there's another way. The Empire brings submission. We'll show them independence." As the massive hangar doors opened above them, sunlight streamed in for the first time in decades. The Thunder of Terra's engines powered up, their deep hum resonating through the ship. Similar scenes played out across Mars as humanity's hidden fleet prepared to launch. The Empire had expected to find a primitive civilization, ready to kneel before their might. Instead, they were about to face a humanity that had spent 30 years preparing for this very moment. Earth wasn't just ready for war, they were ready to win it. As Commander Miller gave the order to launch, she knew that today would change the galaxy forever. The Empire was about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous opponent is the one you never saw coming. The Imperial fleet moved forward with complete confidence. 100 warships, each the size of a small city, advanced toward Earth. Their golden hulls gleamed in the sunlight, a display of power meant to inspire fear. To them, this was just another routine conquest. Lieutenant Tom Richards watched them approach from his stealth fighter, hidden among the asteroids. His small ship, barely larger than an old Earth fighter jet, seemed tiny compared to the massive Imperial vessels. But size wasn't everything. "All units, hold position," came Admiral Walker's voice over the quantum comm. "Let them enter the kill zone." The Empire's ships moved exactly as Earth's strategists had predicted. Their formation was perfect, following tactical doctrines unchanged for thousands of years. They had no reason to change, until now. "Look at them," Tom's wingman, Jack West, commented over the private channel. "They're not even running active scans. They think we're primitives with chemical rockets." The Imperial fleet crossed Neptune's orbit, then Uranus. Their confidence was their weakness. Earth had turned the entire solar system into one giant trap, and the Empire was walking right into it. "All defense grid stations, activate," Walker commanded. Across the solar system, hidden platforms powered up. The Empire's first warning was when their long-range sensors detected energy spikes. But by then, it was too late. "Initiate Defense Pattern Alpha," Walker ordered. "Show them what humanity can do." Tom watched as the first phase began. Hundreds of micro-black holes winked into existence around the Imperial fleet, created by Earth's gravity-lance technology. The Empire's massive ships suddenly found themselves being pulled in multiple directions. "Their shields are adapting," reported the tactical officer on the command channel. "Just as we expected. Execute Phase 2. This was what humanity had planned for. While the Empire's shields protected against the gravity weapons, they weren't ready for what came next. Quantum-linked missiles, developed from the Mars ruins technology, but enhanced by human innovation, appeared inside their shield perimeters. The first explosions lit up space like new stars. Imperial ships, their perfect formation now broken, tried to respond. But their tactics were predictable, learned from thousands of years of fighting weaker opponents. "Fighter squadrons, you're up," Walker commanded. "Show them what Earth can do." Tom pushed his throttle forward. His stealth fighter, along with hundreds of others, decloaked and attacked. The small Earth ships moved in ways the Empire had never seen, using gravity drives to make turns that should have been impossible. "Target their command and control nodes," Tom ordered his squadron. "Just like we practiced." The Empire's response was chaos. Their massive ships, designed for grand fleet battles, couldn't track the smaller, faster Earth vessels. Their weapons, powerful but slow, couldn't hit targets that seemed to ignore the laws of physics. Imperial vessel detected powering up main weapons, came the warning over the comm. "Preparing to fire on Earth." This was what they had waited for. As the Imperial ship's weapon charged, the quantum defense grid activated. A web of energy appeared between Earth and the Imperial fleet, created by thousands of hidden satellites. The Imperial weapon fired, and the beam disappeared into a micro-black hole, emerging behind their own fleet. 3 Imperial ships vanished in the blast meant for Earth. "They're breaking formation," Jack called out, starting to retreat. But retreat wasn't as simple as they thought. Earth's gravity weapons had created a complex web of distorted space. The Imperial ships found their usual escape routes blocked, their FTL drives unable to function properly. Tom's fighter group surrounded a damaged Imperial cruiser, their quantum-tipped weapons easily piercing its now failing shields. "This is Lieutenant Richards to Imperial vessel," he transmitted. "Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded." For the first time in their history, an Imperial ship surrendered to a primitive world. The battle lasted less than an hour. Of the 100 ships the Empire had sent, 30 were destroyed, 40 were crippled, and the rest were in full retreat. those that could still run. Admiral Walker's voice came over the comm one final time. All units, report status. And well done. Today, we've shown the Empire that humanity will not bow. This is just the beginning. As Tom looked at the captured Imperial ship, he knew the Admiral was right. This wasn't just a victory. It was a message to the galaxy. Earth wasn't just fighting for independence. They were fighting to show there was another way. The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if they too were celebrating humanity's first victory against the Empire. In the bright interrogation room of Earth's lunar base, Captain Nexus of the Imperial fleet sat in stunned silence. His golden uniform, once pristine, showed battle damage. Across from him sat Lieutenant Tom Richards, now assigned to intelligence duty after his successful capture of the Imperial vessel. "Let me understand this," Nexus said slowly, his translator converting his words to English. "Your people found our ruins on Mars and decided not to announce yourselves to the Empire." Tom smiled and pulled up a holographic display showing the Mars ruins. "We learned enough to know what announcing ourselves would mean. Submission, loss of independence. So we chose a different path." The Imperial captain shook his head. "In 10,000 years of Imperial history, no species has ever refused membership. It's impossible." Meanwhile, in the Empire's central command, chaos reigned. The grand halls of their capital world echoed with angry voices as military leaders tried to understand their defeat. Massive screens showed the battle data, replaying Earth's devastating tactics. Their database classification was wrong, one Imperial general shouted. They were listed as pre-FTL primitives. How did they develop such weapons? The Empire's rigid hierarchy was facing its first real crisis in centuries. Their standardized battle tactics, unchanged for thousands of years, had failed completely against Earth's innovations. Back in the interrogation room, Tom decided to push harder. "Tell me, Captain, when was the last time the Empire created a new weapon? A new tactic? A new anything?" Nexus frowned. "Why would we need to? Our technology is perfect. Our tactics are proven. We have conquered thousands of worlds." "And that's your weakness," Tom replied. "You stopped growing, stopped changing. Humanity never stops innovating." The truth was becoming clear to both sides. The Empire had grown too comfortable, too rigid. They had standardized everything. Their ships, their tactics, their very thinking. But humans had taken their technology and transformed it, improved it in ways they had never imagined. In the Empire's War College, instructors struggled to explain Earth's tactics to their students. How could ships so small move so fast? How had Earth created artificial gravity wells as weapons? Why hadn't the Empire thought of these innovations? "The humans didn't just copy our technology," one instructor admitted. "They understood it, improved it, and then created entirely new applications we never considered." The Empire's intelligence service was in turmoil. Their carefully maintained database of all known species had failed them. Earth should have been an easy conquest. Instead, they had revealed weaknesses in Imperial power that no one had seen before. Captain Nexus watched as Tom showed him more footage from the battle. "Your ships," he said quietly, "they move like nothing I've ever seen. And those gravity weapons. We had 30 years to prepare," Tom explained. "While you expected us to behave like every other species, to submit and join your empire, we were studying, building, improving. We took your gravity drive technology and asked, what else can this do?" Across the Empire, more disturbing reports arrived. Other conquered species were watching Earth's resistance with great interest. Some were beginning to question the Empire's absolute authority. If Earth could stand against them, why couldn't others? In a secure conference room, Admiral Walker met with Earth's military leaders. The holographic displays showed the Empire's response to their defeat. Confusion, anger, and fear. "They're mobilizing their main fleet," Walker announced. "But they're following the same old protocols, the same patterns. They haven't learned." "Should we be worried?" someone asked. Walker shook his head. They'll come with more ships, thinking quantity will overcome quality. But their fundamental weakness remains. They can't adapt. They can't innovate. They've forgotten how. Back in the interrogation room, Nexus finally asked the question that was haunting the entire Empire. What will you do next? Tom stood up, his expression serious. That's the difference between us, Captain. You always know what you'll do next because you never change. Humanity. We improvise. We adapt. We surprise even ourselves. As the Empire prepared its response to Earth's defiance, they didn't realize they had already lost their greatest advantage, the element of surprise. Earth knew exactly how they would react, while humanity's next move remained unpredictable. The game had changed, and only one side knew how to play by new rules. Dr. Maria Torres stood before the massive holographic display in Earth's Strategic Command Center, explaining her discovery to Admiral Walker and the gathered military leaders. Her hands moved through the floating images, showing the Empire's communication network. Every Imperial world is connected through standardized FTL communication hubs, she explained, her eyes bright with excitement. They haven't changed this system in over 1,000 years. That's their weakness. Commander David Cooper, leader of Earth's Special Operations, leaned forward. And you found a way to disrupt it. Maria nodded, pulling up a small device hologram. We call it the Quantum Cascade Disruptor. Once activated, it creates a feedback loop in their communication network. Their own standardization will work against them. Admiral Walker studied the device. How many do we need? Just 7, Maria replied. 1 for each major hub in their network. When they activate, the disruption will spread through their entire system. The plan was bold, perhaps the boldest in human military history. While the Empire gathered its main fleet for a massive assault on Earth, humanity would strike first, not at their military, but at their ability to coordinate it. Commander Cooper's stealth ship, Shadow of Earth, moved silently through Imperial space. His small crew had trained for months for this mission. Their ship used technology that even Earth's fleet didn't have. True invisibility, not just cloaking. First target in sight, his navigator, John Baker, reported. Imperial Communication Hub Alpha. Their security is exactly where the intel said it would be. The Imperial Hub was massive, a space station the size of a small moon. But its defenses were predictable, designed to stop conventional attacks. They weren't ready for what Earth had planned. Team 1, you're up, Cooper ordered. 4 soldiers in advanced stealth suits exited the ship, their quantum propulsion units leaving no trace. The Empire's sensors, designed to detect engine emissions and metal, were blind to Earth's new technology. Inside the hub, Imperial officers went about their duties, never noticing the shadows that moved among them. The Earth team reached the core of the facility, where thousands of FTL communication links converged. Device planted, came the whispered report. Timer set. Similar scenes played out across Imperial space. Earth's stealth ships, carrying their deadly cargo of disruptors, struck like ghosts in the night. The Empire, focused on gathering their fleet, never noticed the knife at their throat. On the 6th hub, things went wrong. An Imperial technician spotted one of Earth's soldiers. Alarms blared. Security breach in Sector 7. Imperial voices shouted. Unknown intruders. But by then, it was too late. The device was already planted. The Earth team vanished before the Imperial troops arrived, leaving confusion in their wake. Back on the Shadow of Earth, Cooper received the reports from all teams. 6 devices planted, 1 to go. The final hub was the most heavily defended, the one in the Imperial capital itself. This is it, he told his crew. Everything we've trained for comes down to this. The Imperial capital world glowed before them, its defenses more formidable than anything they'd seen. But Earth had planned for this too. Launch the decoy drones, Cooper ordered. Dozens of small drones shot out from the ship, each broadcasting signals that mimicked Imperial vessels. As planned, The capital's defenses tracked these false targets, leaving the gap for the real mission. "We're in position," Baker reported. "Final team ready." The last insertion was perfect. Earth's soldiers moved through the Imperial capital's communication hub like water through cracks. The final device was planted just as the others began their countdown. In Earth's strategic command, Maria Torres watched the network diagram. Devices armed and synchronized. "On your order, Admiral." Admiral Walker looked at the display showing the Empire's gathering fleet, over 1,000 ships, preparing to attack Earth. The Empire's largest force in centuries, and they had no idea what was about to happen. "Do it," he ordered. Maria pressed a button. Across Imperial space, 7 quantum Cascade disruptors activated simultaneously. The Empire's perfect, standardized communication network became its own worst enemy. The disruption spread like a tidal wave through their system. World after world went dark, cut off from Imperial command. The mighty fleet, gathered to punish Earth, suddenly found itself deaf, blind, and leaderless. Earth's counterattack had begun, and they never fired a single shot. The Imperial Palace shook as angry crowds gathered outside its golden walls. Without the FTL communication network, the Empire's perfect order had shattered in just 3 days. On hundreds of worlds, people were realizing just how dependent they had become on central control. In the palace's Grand Command Center, the Imperial Council watched their empire crumble. The massive display screens, once showing real-time data from across the galaxy, now showed mostly static. "We've lost contact with 80% of our worlds," one counselor reported, his voice shaking. "The fleet is scattered. Each commander is acting independently, without coordination." Admiral Walker watched all this through the eyes of Earth's stealth probes. In the months since Operation Quantum Cascade, Earth had launched hundreds of these invisible observers throughout Imperial space. "Look at their response," he said to his staff. "They keep trying to fix the network using the same methods. They can't even imagine trying something new." The Empire's mighty fleet, which had gathered to attack Earth, was now in disarray. Without central command, ship captains fell back on protocols thousands of years old. Some remained in position. Others retreated to defend their home sectors. A few tried to attack Earth anyway, and met the same fate as the First Fleet. On the Imperial factory world of Industra, the assembly lines stopped. They couldn't receive new orders from the capital. The workers, who had never made a decision without Imperial approval, stood idle. "Send the message," Walker ordered. Earth's quantum communication network, completely different from the Imperial system, came to life. On every Imperial world, people received a transmission that changed everything. "People of the Empire," the message began, transmitted in all local languages. "You have been told that central control is strength, that standardization is perfection. Earth offers you a different path: independence, innovation, freedom to choose your own way." Along with the message came technical data. Designs for new communication systems, weapons to defend themselves, technologies the Empire had suppressed. But more importantly, they sent ideas. Commander Cooper's stealth fleet visited world after world, making contact with local leaders. Many were former rebels or resistance fighters who had been watching Earth's defiance with growing hope. "You don't need the Empire to tell you what to do," Cooper told a group of resistance leaders on a mining world. "You've always known how to run your own worlds. You just weren't allowed to try." In the Imperial Academy, students began asking questions their teachers couldn't answer. Why did they only learn old tactics? Why couldn't they experiment with new ideas? The Empire's rigid education system, designed to produce obedient officers, was facing its first real challenge. Back on Earth, Dr. Torres monitored the spreading chaos. "It's working better than we expected," she reported. "Without constant Imperial oversight, people are starting to think for themselves." The Empire tried to respond with force, sending ships to punish rebellious worlds. But Earth was ready. Those same worlds now had defensive technology that matched anything the Empire could bring. Imperial cruiser approaching Sector 7, a technician reported. "Show me," Walker ordered. On the main screen, they watched as an Imperial warship approached a former mining colony. But instead of finding helpless victims, they faced a defense grid based on Earth's designs. The Imperial ship retreated, its captain unwilling to risk fighting against weapons he didn't understand. In the Imperial Palace, the Council was facing reality. Their power had always depended on control. Control of communication, technology, and ideas. Without that control, the Empire's foundation was cracking. Multiple systems are declaring independence, an aide reported. They're calling it the Freedom Movement. Earth's message was spreading faster than anyone had expected. World after world was choosing to stand on its own, following Earth's example. The Empire, which had ruled through uniformity and control, couldn't understand a galaxy choosing diversity and independence. Admiral Walker looked at the latest reports and smiled. "We didn't need to destroy the Empire," he said. "We just needed to show people they could live without it." The revolution wasn't being fought with warships and weapons. It was being won with ideas, spreading across the galaxy at the speed of thought. Unstoppable as the light of distant stars. The Empire was learning the hardest lesson of all. Sometimes the greatest power comes not from control, but from letting go. The great hall of the former Imperial Palace looked very different now. The golden throne of the Empire had been replaced by a circular table. Around it sat representatives from 100 worlds, including the man who had started it all, Admiral James Walker of Earth. 3 months had passed since the Empire's communication network collapsed. In that time, more had changed than in the previous 1,000 years of Imperial rule. "The old Empire is dead," Walker addressed the gathering. "But we're not here to build a new empire. We're here to build something better, the Galactic Council, where every world has an equal voice." The room was filled with faces from across the galaxy. Former Imperial worlds, now independent, sat beside the rebels who had once fought against them. At one end of the table sat Captain Nexus, no longer in his Imperial uniform, but wearing the simple clothes of his homeworld. "Earth could have conquered us," Nexus spoke to the assembly. "They had the power. Instead, they showed us a different way." Dr. Maria Torres, now Earth's chief scientific advisor, activated the room's holographic display. Above the table appeared a map of the galaxy, showing the new trade routes and communication networks that connected independent worlds. "We've replaced the Empire's single vulnerable network with hundreds of local networks," she explained, "each designed and maintained by the worlds that use them. Different, but connected. Like us." Commander David Cooper, standing at his post near the entrance, watched the proceedings with pride. The Shadow of Earth had completed its final mission, carrying diplomats instead of soldiers, building bridges instead of destroying them. "Look at them," Cooper said to his old friend Tom Richards, who now served as Earth's head of interstellar relations. A year ago, none of them would dare speak without Imperial permission. Now they're designing their own futures. The changes were visible everywhere. The rigid Imperial architecture was being modified, each world adding its own cultural touches. Ships of different designs filled the sky, showing how quickly innovation had spread once the Empire's standardization was gone. A representative from a former mining world stood up. "We've discovered something interesting," she announced. "When we started making our own decisions, we found better ways to do things. Our production has actually increased since we left the Empire." Similar stories came from across the galaxy. Freed from Imperial restrictions, worlds were developing new technologies, new ways of thinking, new forms of cooperation. The Empire's fall had unleashed a wave of creativity that no one had expected. Admiral Walker walked to the center of the room, where a simple pedestal stood. On it was mounted the original message that had started everything. Earth's first response to the Empire. "No entry." "This stays here," he said, "not as a symbol of defiance, but as a reminder. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is say no to power and yes to freedom." The assembly moved on to its main purpose, signing the new Galactic Charter. Unlike the Empire's 1,000-page book of regulations, the charter was simple. Each world was free to govern itself. The Council would handle only matters that affected everyone: peace, trade, and the sharing of knowledge. As representatives came forward to sign, Earth's team watched with satisfaction. This was victory, not the destruction of an enemy, but the birth of something new. "There's just one more thing," Walker announced. He pressed a button, and the palace's massive doors opened. Outside, thousands of citizens from dozens of worlds had gathered. The new council would meet in public, its discussions open to all. "The Empire kept secrets," Walker said. "We choose transparency. The Empire demanded submission. We choose cooperation. The Empire feared change. We embrace it." As the crowds entered the hall, the former imperial palace transformed. No longer a symbol of power and control, it had become a place of meeting and exchange. The galaxy was entering a new age. Tom Richards looked at the words "no entry" and smiled. Funny how two simple words changed everything. Not the words, Walker corrected him. The idea behind them, that every world, every person, has the right to choose their own path. That's what really changed the galaxy. The Empire had ruled through unity imposed from above. Earth had shown that true strength comes from unity freely chosen, from the balance between independence and cooperation. A new galactic civilization was being born, built not on control, but on choice.